Hello, friends, and welcome to the final interview in this round of the Can to Can interview series with a very, very special guest, Ashley Clements. We have had the distinct pleasure of collaborating with Ashley on a number of projects, including Idol Worship, Solve It Squad, and the upcoming series, Wayward Guide. Ashley herself is no stranger to digital collaboration, both in front of and behind the camera. You've probably seen her in the Lizzie Bennett Diaries, or Muzzled, or Poe Party, or maybe in her own projects that she's written, directed, and starred in, like Sona and the upcoming Idiot Tale. A quick little reminder, this is only half of the conversation we have with Ashley. The full conversation, as well as the taped live stream version of it, is available on our Patreon. This video, as well as all archived videos and upcoming videos, like we just did an interview with John Kozart that won't be available online for a couple months, can be found at our Patreon. So, for those goodies and all sorts of other goodies, head to www.patreon.com/tincanbros. Join the fam. Now, you will soon discover that I was not available for a good chunk of this interview, so listening back to it was a fun and exciting experience for me. Ashley, Corey, and Brian discussed grad school, the inspirations and pressures one faces when trying to create a viral tweet, and having a fan base as a digital creator. They also planned a little prank for me, and I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't that funny. So, if you're listening to this interview for the first time like I just did, I hope you enjoy our chat with Ashley.
Welcome to July. Welcome to our Patreon live stream for July. I can't believe it's July.
It's still March, I think.
Oh,
been a very long March.
I think we just all agreed that to pause March, and we'll just pick up whenever we pick up. Meanwhile, it's March, 124th.
Yeah,
Whatever.
pretty much. Hey everyone, I'm Joey Richter.
Yeah, so Joey's here, Corey's here. Ashley will be joining us shortly. But Joey's will be here as soon as he can. In the meantime, we do have the lovely Ashley Clements, who is this way on my screen, but I have no idea which way.
It is on.
You're pointing at me on my screen.
Oh.
Very good. Yeah. This is I love how just this is normal practice now. Just you get on a call with everyone, share your pronouns, figure out where you are on the Zoom screen.
Yeah, that's the next level of Zooming, understanding where you are in space in relation to everyone else.
I watched a Zoom play in which they had very much coordinated that and had coordinated their backgrounds so that it sort of looked like it lined up kind of, so that they were pretending to be in the same room.
I saw a Zoom show, but it was a one-man magician show.
I saw The Present as well, Corey.
Yes. We can talk about that later.
Yeah. Well, Ashley, thanks for being here. We've known Ashley for years now. It's odd. Once you start knowing people and working with them, I feel it's hard to get
knowing them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's just hard to get a grasp on the feeling that you ever didn't know
hard to shake them.
You're
hard
stuck
to
with
shake
them. You're stuck with us, really.
I went into quarantine and I still cannot get rid of you.
Yeah. But you might know Ashley from the Solve It Squad. Beep boop up.
This is me holding up a magnifying glass.
You will know her from Wayward Guide, but you don't know her from it yet.
I've seen it.
Ooh.
Oh.
Maybe we'll talk about that later.
I'm also the star of what's it called? What's the improvised one we did about
Idol Worship?
Idol Worship.
I was the Lizzie Bennett Diary.
No,
we're
yeah, but I'm the star of Idol Worship. I was naming my tin can credit.
Yes.
You are one of those people like us who we love because you've found a way to straddle digital and theater. You know what I mean? That's been our trajectory. You know what I mean? So obviously people know you from Lizzie Bennett Diaries
and Poe Party and Muzzled, but more importantly, you're a viral Twitter sensation.
It's my first viral tweet, guys.
You had a viral tweet? What happened?
Yeah, I tweeted something and it went viral, which means that it just became very, very popular.
Which is maybe a term we should find a new term for.
Yeah, for real.
What was the tweet?
It was
Give
weird.
us the play-by-play.
Well, here's what happened. A nutritionist that I worked with like a decade ago, but I'm still on her mailing list, sent out an email that said, "Do you feel like you wasted quarantine?" And my first thought was, who the fuck is out of quarantine? Not safe. And so then I wrote my tweet, which I will look up the precise.
Oh no,
We
I
need
think
to
it's
get this
important because it was very well worded.
But it was also a while ago. So don't mind me, I'm just scrolling through my own Twitter like a very
I think
person.
this is a good time for another screen break. I think we've been talking long enough to like.
Yeah,
Okay.
Get out of here.
For everyone who can't see, we're all looking at our phones because again, podcasting is a visual medium.
I really genuinely don't know where this tweet is. Oh, I found it. For anyone who feels like they wasted quarantine because they didn't write a novel or learn a new language or get shredded, I have good news. Quarantine ain't over. Get back inside.
Got it.
It's a good tweet.
Honestly.
Got him. You literally got millions of people.
But it's also like,
well, hundreds of thousands. But what's funny about it is how many people, the responses were, I have to assume because people liked it, most people got the joke. But the three main people who felt the need to respond were the people who listed the accomplishments they had done in quarantine. Mm-hmm. People who said, like, I genuinely needed this inspiration.
Oh boy.
And people who were like, it's actually okay if you don't write a novel in quarantine.
Right.
And it took all the strength in my body not to explain my joke to people because it's against my religion to explain my jokes.
There's nothing funnier than explaining your jokes.
But then it got reposted in all these places, and a lot of the places reposting it were like, it's not too late. You can
no.
Nope.
It's like, there's the point. You missed it.
You missed the point. But then a Denzel Washington parody account stole my tweet.
Parody.
And it did slightly better. And then a bunch of people pointed it to me, and so I responded and was like, "You stole my joke." And then a ton of people replied to that, like tagging me, being like, "You stole this joke from Happy Ashley Clem." And I was like, "This is all very." I just kind of was like, "Oh, okay."
How flattering.
Yeah. But it's also like it was a very good tweet. But no offense, I go.
No, how do you know?
Not worth stealing.
Well, right, thank you. And there's a joke. No, truly, there's a joke in Non-Transferable, another one of my credits. I didn't write it. This is credit to Brennan Bradley who wrote it. But there's a line in it where about something that goes viral, and someone says to my character Amy, asks like, "How did it go viral?" And character says, "No one knows how it works, Amy." And I quote that all the time because like, why did this go viral? No one knows how it works, Amy.
Really.
And so. Very random. The weirdest thing about it is that I got like 1,000 Twitter followers from it, and I'm like, who sees one viral tweet and is like, I'm gonna follow you to the ends of the earth?
People live on social media these days. I don't know.
Well, where else do you want them to go? I want them to stay inside.
Yeah. But here's the benefit of going viral. Now you're very rich.
Yes, that has been because it has over 300,000 likes, and everyone obviously gives you $1 when they like it.
Mm-hmm.
So I did just make 300K, which has been really helpful in the quarantine. I was able to get that helicopter that I needed, so that's been great.
What was your relationship with social media before quarantine, and has it changed?
Unhealthy and now unhealthier.
How do you mean?
I mean, I spend too much time on it. And it's a consequence, honestly. I was not on social media. I mean, I was on Facebook, which I'm basically not on now because I hate it. Mm-hmm. I would delete my Facebook account if I could, but I need it for a couple of business reasons. But I wasn't on Twitter or any of the other things, some of which didn't exist. Instagram was brand new. I don't know. I wasn't on any of those things until the Lizzie Bennet Diaries happened. And because the Lizzie Bennet Diaries characters were all on social media, they made us kind of join social media. Actually, the creator of that show picked my Twitter handle. Like, I didn't pick it because my name was taken, and I couldn't figure out what else to do.
Could have gone with the real.
And so it was all too long. I could be like the real Ashley, but like mine, Ashley Clements, I had 2 extra spaces. So it couldn't even be the Ashley Clements. I could be it Ashley Clements.
It Ashley Clements.
Which, I don't know, might have been better. I couldn't be Clements Ashley. Like, I couldn't be Ash Clements. Like, I couldn't be anything. Also, if I had done that, then everyone would call me Ash, and only certain people get to call me Ash. So I hate when I'm like, when like a person I don't know is like, "Hey, Ash." I'm like, how dare you? But when friends do it, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, a nickname for me." Actually, my I talk to myself a lot, and I used to call myself Clemento, which was a typo that happened with my name one time that made me laugh a lot. But lately I've been calling myself something actually that Corey called me, which is Clamato. So sometimes if I like do something dumb, I'll be like, oh, Clamato.
That's funny. Clemento sounds like your suave sort of like alter ego.
Well, it was really funny because it was
Clemento.
on a costume thing, and when I got there, they were like, "Sorry, is it Clements or Clemento?" There's also like Clemente and Clemente are like Italian and Latin variations. I mean, it all comes from Latin on the name, but like there is no Clemento. No one's name is Clemento, but I loved it. Anyways, but so you asked about social media. Since the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, because at the time it was like, oh, I needed to be on social media to like promote the show and interact with people. And also it was a very healthy, wholesome space, you know?
It used to be fun.
It was a more innocent time. We used to make jokes and, you know, kitten pictures and stuff. And so, and ever since then, I kind of told myself, it was like, well, it's part of my job to be on social media and to like maintain a presence and a following. And it's how I promote my work. And it's how I, you know, I've done a lot of work that has been kickstarted, and, you know, I have a Patreon, and like, those are all things that benefit from having the social media following. And so I was always kind of able to like convince myself that it was good. I think it started to get really unhealthy around like the 2016 election. You know, those screen time reports now are just like shame. So, you know, I sometimes I lock myself out on my phone. But like I have a kind of unhealthy relationship with Twitter where like I'll close Twitter on my phone and then I'll be like, I'm gonna do something on my computer, and I will realize at some point that I'm scrolling through Twitter on my computer and I don't remember opening Twitter. I don't know how I got there.
Wow.
And I'm just like, oh, this is not good.
Yeah.
So
in that we're so disconnected right now though, and there is something about, you know, jumping on Instagram to feel more connected to your friends. Like that's like
Right.
more real now than it's been in the past, as far
It's
as
very,
just like
very true.
what's available to people.
Like this is the first time that I've seen Corey's dog, but I knew Corey had a dog because of social media. But we haven't communicated directly about that. But at first, the dog announcement wasn't public. It was just a close friends announcement.
I know. I think that's the only time I've ever used close friends.
I haven't used it because honestly, the idea of having to sit down and make a list and decide who my close friends are is exhausting.
That's a Facebook.
Mostly just no, it's Instagram stories.
An Instagram feature.
It's like the people you're following. Look,
I mainly just
too.
oh look.
Oh.
I mostly just went through and was like, who do I know? Like in IRL.
Right.
And it was mostly like, I feel weird making like a dog announcement, but I guess I have to do this at some point.
It's the most popular kind of announcement.
Yeah.
My most
but
popular
also,
content is contemplating jumping in my lap.
But I was fostering him at first, and so I like didn't know if I was gonna like keep him,
sure.
And I didn't want to have that like embarrassment.
Right, which people I know have had situations like that before, where they've gotten animals and then for one reason or another had to return them.
Which I feel like we've made fun of them mercilessly for, which in retrospect is real shitty. Because like they did the right thing.
It's the same thing if you get a kid you don't like. It's just like, send that back.
Just send it back, yeah.
Send it back.
Get that UPS label, drop it off.
Well, the great thing about kids is it's like Amazon, where you don't even need to like exactly package it.
You don't have to put them in a box, right?
Yeah, you just need to show them the QR code, yeah.
Yeah, I think also with social media, with how terrible things are, it's like you can jump on and in 10 minutes get all the fuel you need for the rest of the day to go and like take action and like whatever. Like I'm thinking specifically with all the protests, you know, it's like there are obviously
that's where it's hard to say it's bad.
It's not all bad.
So much. Right.
But like at one point is it useful versus just like
self-flagellation
and doom scrolling, yeah.
Well, because eventually I was able to say like, hey, you can read like, you know, this much virus news a day. You can get up to date on like the newest recommendations. But the fact is like I have quarantined this entire time. And I'm not planning to stop because it's not safe.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Not in LA. It's interesting. It's good to stay informed. You know, it was interesting when we kind of shifted from going like, oh, it's less fomite transmissions on surfaces and more breathing each other's air. Like that was good information to know, but we don't have breaking science news every single day. And so I was able to kind of go like, okay, you don't need to follow the virus this closely. And then And then the George Floyd protests really started, and a kind of spotlight was put on the Black Lives Matters movement in a way that felt like, well, I can't turn away from this, and it also felt like a privilege to be able to say, like, well, I'm finding that really emotionally exhausting, so
like you had
take a break.
the fact
and so
that you had an option, you felt like you had an option to turn away from it.
Right. And so then I had to remind myself, like, okay, well, use your platform to share information, because other people sharing information has made a difference in my own understanding of the situation.
Right.
And then, like, donate, and then maybe take a break, because you're not solving anything by spending 6 hours a day on Twitter.
The counterpoint also that people aren't designed to like process so much. It's like you can't, like, unless it's in your immediate circle or community, the way you react to it is like with an existential dread, which like can't really be combated the same way something can be in your immediate vicinity. Not to dwell on these topics, let's talk, Ashley, what brought you to like LA in the first place? I know you're from like the Bay Area. Are you from San Francisco, or the more like?
I was born in San Francisco at a hospital that doesn't exist anymore. No.
From like Marin,
right? But I grew up in Marin County, which the more that Marin is in the news feels like embarrassing. But it was a nice place to grow up.
It's so beautiful up there.
It's very very
vicinity.
pretty. It's a real kind of suburban paradise, but like close enough to the city that I did grow up. Like, we would go into San Francisco. We would go into the city for like all the national tours that would come through town. So I did grow up seeing a lot of theater and fell in love with it. And it's funny because actually my mom is from LA, and she went to what is now Harvard Westlake High School, which like a lot of celebrities go to, but it was back when it was just Westlake, because it was Harvard was the boys' school and Westlake was the girls' school. And so she was before they merged. But so she went to school with a lot of like child actors and models and the children of famous people, and she felt like that whole world was really, really toxic. And so I was kind of raised to not like LA and to not think of it as a place to go. And so when I fell in love with theater and acting, I became very New York oriented. And I thought people who worked on television were sellouts who just wanted to do it for money, and that real theater artists did it for the love. At this point, of course, I'd never had to pay a bill.
I have that entire thing tattooed on my back, actually. I believe that for years.
I know that because we've shared dressing rooms. And so I only applied to New York colleges or East Coast colleges, and very like theatery colleges. And I got a scholarship at Ithaca College. So I went east, and
Ithaca is gorgeous, they say.
Ithaca is gorgeous. Speaking of another beautiful place, well, it's funny because I moved from Marin to Ithaca, and I went to school with all these people who'd come from like Buffalo and Cleveland, and they were just like out of their minds by like, it's so beautiful here. And Ithaca is very beautiful, but I had come from a very beautiful place. So I was like, well, yeah, it's beautiful.
This is how places look.
And a very spiritual place too.
Places are beautiful. And we'd only ever gone vacation to like attractive places, and like, so I was like, yes, the world is beautiful. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then sophomore year, I drove my car across country, and I was like,
oh,
there's a variety.
There's a shithole.
Cool. I drove through Cleveland and was like, oh, no shade to Cleveland. I literally only saw what you can see from the freeway, which is not the best way to see any city, but it looked very concrete.
Those are all very also musical theater-y cities you mentioned. Like, I feel like every person in every musical is like, I'm from Buffalo, I'm from Allentown, I'm from Cleveland. Yes. Like, they're always from these like blue collar, like.
Yes, it's true. And I did grow up feeling very like Broadway bound. And then in college, I found myself gravitating away towards musical theater, although I do love musical theater, and got really into like Shakespeare stuff and applied to grad school. Honestly, in part, because people at the time asked me like, why are you going to grad school? And I was 22. And the honest answer was I did not feel ready to go like start auditioning professionally. Like, I was scared.
So you went right after undergrad, like following fall?
I went straight to grad school, which was unusual for my program because it was much more oriented towards older people, which actually ended up working out well for me because I got to play all these teenage parts. So I got to work a lot. But I was really, really unhappy in the weather situation in Ithaca. I was really unhappy with the snow. Yeah, New York has this whole like snow problem they have yet to come up with a solution for. And so
Don't worry, the world is
Um,
slowly making the solution
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're trying to.
Well, I think the solution is just like having lots of people stomp through it, so it just becomes like dirty slush.
Yes, that's right. That is the difference. At least like in upstate, the snow stays well,
Nice.
not clean,
Pristine.
but not slush. Actually, but like it ices over, and there'll just be like piles of
Yeah, those, like,
of like
Oh.
ice.
Like
snow.
in
Do you remember that?
City.
Do you have
Like
that in Michigan?
like
Probably.
when they like would
Yeah.
plow the parking lot at the theater
And
building.
there would just be like one parking spot that was just like all snow.
Yeah, I'd always park there. I was just love the challenge.
I can do it. I remember keeping a shovel in the back of my car in order to like dig it out of snow. But one time it snowed so much that I couldn't get to my trunk to get the shovel. Yeah. But so when I was applying to grad schools, the two that I got into were one is the program that ART does at Harvard, which would have meant moving from Ithaca to Boston. And the other is the program that the University of San Diego does with the Old Globe Theater in San Diego, which meant moving to San Diego. And also the program at San Diego was free with a stipend, and going to ART would have been like $100K. So I like to say I turned down Harvard, but it wasn't really a whole lot of thought process in terms of like, I'm obviously going to go move to San Diego. And then I really fell in love with Southern California, which I never expected to do. And then it kind of threw my whole life out of whack in terms of, I did when I finished my program at San Diego, move back to New York because that's where theater was. That program is much more well known and respected. Like literally no one in Los Angeles knows about it, has heard of it, cares about it. Like it's not the currency in Los Angeles. But when I'm in New York and I forget, but I had some conversations with people the last time I was in New York, and I was like, oh right, I forget that like it's very impressive. People in New York, they're like,
people care about that.
MFA from the Old Globe, and
Did
I'm
you-
like, oh yeah, I do.
Did you
Is that
love
you?
Shakespeare before that, or did you go Shakespeare is
did.
something like I should do because this will give me great training?
No, I was very like Shakespeare nerdy in a way that I'm not anymore.
What were your faves at
like-
the time?
I used to say Othello was my favorite tragedy. My cat Perdita is named for The Winter's Tale.
And Clemento is
found
one of
her-
my favorite Shakespeare characters.
Clemento
Mhm,
is a
mhm.
classic. That actually did happen at the Old Globe, so that does come from that era. It was my first show, and they were like, "Is it Clements or Clemento?" I was like, "Cool."
Yeah. Uh-huh.
My favorite comedies probably As You Like It, and my favorite history would be Henry V. So how about that? I gave you one in every category. But it's in post. We last year shot a modern adaptation of Macbeth. So Shakespeare's still very much like something in my consciousness, but I haven't actually performed Shakespeare since I left the Old Globe, and so it used to be something I would have considered myself like kind of an expert in, and now I'm like, how do you do that?
In a way, though, like you've touched just through like the works of Shakespeare, you probably touched on almost every human emotion that you will ever encounter in like a contemporary piece of TV, film, or theater, though, right? In a way, like obviously, like the language is different, the context is different, but as far as just like emotional range, and
I mean, they say it's great training because if you can do Shakespeare, you can do anything. And so I don't know if that's true, but I mean, I wouldn't trade anything. I loved my time at the Old Globe. It was the first time I ever lived alone, and I had this like cute little apartment in San Diego. I found this cat, and for 2 years my only job was to act, and I didn't actually have to worry about. We weren't even allowed to have jobs because you were so busy.
Yeah.
Because
and you didn't have to pay $100K for it.
Right, grad school was free. I got a stipend, and it was a 6-day-a-week program. We took the equity day off on Monday to kind of train us for what that would be like. And then when school was in session, every day was a 10 out of 12. So we would do basically like class, lunch break, more class, dinner break, rehearsal at night for the MFA show. And then when we were doing shows at the Old Globe, we would follow a more traditional equity schedule and only do 10 out of 12s when we got into tech. But so, I was young.
It's so fun when you're that age, though. Yeah, exactly.
Like summer camp.
It was a blast. And I was the youngest by a lot. My the next youngest person in my class was 25, but the class went up to 35. And there are only 7 of us in a class, and 14 MFA students at a time in that program. So everyone just kind of like made me like their kid sister, in a way that was like mostly helpful. I mean, a few people were clearly like, kid, but a lot of people were like, oh, you're young, let me sort of protect and help you. And that was a really nice kind of like soft launch into adulthood.
For sure. Or into like the arts, where like when you're an undergrad, like people who are 19 are playing like the middle-aged people, you know what I mean?
Right.
To be in like now be like, oh, this is like the whole range of like.
Right. I learned more what my actual type was and how I would be cast. And yeah, I played exclusively like 16 to 22-year-olds when I was there. And the Old Globe does a lot of contemporary plays as well. I did a lot of contemporary plays. I actually had more contemporary leads than I had Shakespeare leads, because there's usually like one young woman in each Shakespeare play, as opposed to many men. I did literally carry a spear at one point.
I've done that as well.
Very fun. So you wanted to go back to New York. What brought you to LA instead?
Oh, I was really unhappy in New York.
Fair. Or did you go back?
I went back after I graduated from the Old Globe, because as I said, like the program there, people are like, oh, fancy schmancy, you know, and I was able to get into a lot of auditions in New York that my friends from undergrad couldn't get into, just because I had this fancy name to use. So I could audition for Broadway shows, even though I didn't have an agent in New York. I mean, mostly for like understudies, but like, you know, auditioning to be like Zoe Kazan's understudy and stuff like that, I didn't get. But they couldn't even get in the room. And likewise, I had become equity through the shows that I did at the Old Globe, and so I could also go to any EPA that I wanted to, which is equity
principal
audition. And so, you know, and I would pass people who had been like, you know, my TAs in college. I would pass them in like the little sad like non-equity bench. I think they've redone the building since I lived there, but there was like a little bench in the like foyer of the building that like they wouldn't let you in if you weren't equity or EMC. And I'd pass them and be like, hi, and they'd be like, why is this child? I mean, because at that point, like the difference of like 3 years seems like a lot, and now it doesn't. But so, you know, it felt like I should be in New York. There were more opportunities in New York. I'm still not great with that weather, and I was so incredibly broke. And the combination of how expensive New York is, and feeling like every time you leave your apartment in New York, $20 flies out of your pocket. I ended up just kind of like staying in my room, which was the only place that had air conditioning, because the summers are also terrible in New York. And I got very depressed, and it was a very kind of like not great time for me. And then the guy I was dating at the time was like, let's move to LA. And I just said yes. And literally I bought a plane ticket that left 10 days later. I just started packing stuff up. Once my suitcases were full, I started shipping boxes back to my mom, because I know I could drive them from the Bay Area to LA. And I had kept my car. I had left my car at my mom's because I wasn't like 100%. I had almost sold it, but I'd kept it, which was very fortunate, because that was a 97 Honda Civic that was already on its, I think I was.
Great car. Great year, great car.
I was only its second owner. Maybe, anyway, but I had gotten that when I finished high school, and I had driven it cross country to Ithaca, and I had, you know, driven it to San Diego, and then I kind of left it on the street in front of my mom's house, and then I still drove that car for like, I think I got the car I drive now like 2 years ago.
Really? How many miles did you get it up to? Do you remember?
I actually, because I don't have like a regular commute, never put that. Even though I drove it cross country and drove it up and down the state a lot, I think it was still around like 100,000 when I sold it. But I think I sold it in 2017. I think it's a 20-year-old car.
Wow. Nice job.
Yeah, I didn't sell it for a lot of money.
Did you have any like weird survival jobs when you were in New York?
I could not get hired to do anything when I was in New York, which was part of the problem, because of the recession. I did apply for some really terrible jobs, and like that was like part of what was so disheartening. It's like I didn't even get those jobs. Like I applied for a job to be a Sex and the City bus tour guide, which would have paid $50 per tour. And I had to like be ready to answer like Sex and the City trivia questions. And I had to like try to dress like I was like a Sex and the City person, which like
is odd when you're on a bus.
Yeah.
but,
This is pre the ride though, right?
I mean, this was like 2010.
I don't know when the ride happened. Sorry, I'm obsessed with that bus tour that I've never been on.
This one like would like take you to like places in the Upper
exterior
West Side,
locations,
like,
yeah.
And then I think you
Would
went
they like
one.
play clips? Would they play clips?
Yes. And I didn't get that job, and that felt so disheartening. And like the only thing that I could get hired to do was to hand out flyers in Times Square.
Like as one of the Chicago girls?
No, like comedy.
Oh, okay.
And that was not a great job.
I feel like as a young artist, though, you make a decision at a certain point and you go, how much or for how long am I going to let external circumstances dictate my happiness? Like in a way, like where you go, like, you know, maybe just like East Coast, the weather like wasn't conducive to like how you want to live your life. So it's just like.
Right. Well, I'm like, now do I think, look, and this is me, a person who like has depression and anxiety, and like I couldn't do it. Like it doesn't mean that other people couldn't. But when young artists ask me now, like, oh, I don't know, should I go to LA or New York? I at the time was so concerned with like where I wanted to have a career, and I wanted to have a theater career, so I had to go to New York. And now I tell people, you gotta go where you want to live, because what I so encouragingly tell young artists is you will spend most of your time being unemployed. So pick the city you want to be unemployed in. And, you know, so I moved to New York. I mean, I moved from New York, kind of running away from New York. I moved here with a guy I should not have moved here with, but I just was like, it was just a life raft. And look, we broke up almost a decade ago, and he's, you know, not been in LA for a long time, but I stayed. You know, I took to it like a duck to water, and I got a job, and I, you know, it was about a year after I moved here that I booked the Lizzie Bennet Diaries. And then all of a sudden I had a real community, and I had like, because the cast of that became my friends, and I was doing something that I loved. And then all of a sudden I had an audience. And so that kind of dramatically changed my life. And then I got representation and started actually like auditioning for real things.
Tell us about Lizzie Bennet. Like, did you guys know that it was going to be as prolific as it was?
Yeah, we absolutely were like, these vlogs are going to be.
These Emmy winning vlogs are going to be it.
Listen, it's a question that has to be asked.
Brian, I can't believe you haven't watched every interview I've ever done and known that that's a question.
Yeah, I wasn't going to ask this, Brian.
Before.
Yeah.
Has to be asked.
Does it?
Has to be asked.
Just like my viral tweet. No one knows how it works, Amy. And so, I mean, of course, it had Hank Green's following behind it. And so the Vlogbrothers community was a big part of the initial audience. But like, I literally knew nothing about the internet. A series of tubes. I'd never seen a vlog. I didn't know what that was. I didn't really know that people were like making their own content on YouTube. Like, it just wasn't on my radar. And so the idea that it even could be that successful was not a concept I had.
Maybe the better question, but probably not, because the first question was a really good question, is why would you guess that it was? Like, if you had to guess.
Oh, the combination of Jane Austen fans and Vlogbrothers fans are entirely why the Lizzie Bennet Diaries took off the way it did. Those two factors, because Jane Austen fans are robust and they will check out every adaptation. And the show coincided accidentally with the 200th anniversary of Pride and Prejudice, which meant that we got a crazy amount of free press in major publications like BBC and The Guardian and stuff, that we were like, and I will forever be on the list of people who played Elizabeth Bennet, which is bunker. It's very weird because like I'll you know, have a Google alert up for my name. And so I'll still, you know, I'll get notifications that like there's some poll or
someone made another
about,
listicle.
I mean, the polls are unfair. Like, I don't expect to be anyone's favorite Lizzie. Like, I don't want to be compared to Jennifer
And
Ewing.
yet
These are
you
very
are.
different things. Thank you. Yeah, it. I mean, that's how people found it. And then, of course, you know, credit where credit is due. I'm great. And so people fell in love with me.
Totally. And we also
Yeah.
just we don't even worry about it because we have a Google alert set up for your name. So we know.
Yeah. So you're on it.
We get it.
No, I mean, like it was lightning in a bottle. It was something that you know, the whole cast, the writing, like it just worked. And also it was first. You know, there've been a million other it inspired a lot of literary vlog adaptations, but it was first. And so there's currency in that. And so it just kind of took off in a way that Brian, no one could have predicted. And
I always think when people say they knew are full of shit.
Well, in these unprecedented times, speaking of things that to me, it's one of those phrases where it's in the same category of like, stop saying that.
Yep. Oh, I was just gonna say, but that's sort of like Lizzie Bennett is the reason why we ended up meeting you, basically.
Yeah, that's very, I mean, there was absolutely no reason that the Lizzie Bennett Diaries should have been at a Harry Potter convention.
But also, again, that Venn diagram is almost a circle.
It's true. And problematic creator aside, you know, we all, you know, met because, well, in an interesting way, we all met because of kind of being inspired by someone else's
literary
new art, sort of literary inspired things, and then we've all kind of moved past that at this point, and just dragged our fans into original content.
They had no idea what they were in for.
Were you at in Chicago?
That was our first.
I mean, that was like it was like a blur for us, but I remember in Portland, I think it was a year later, and like
Portland was
the whole like Lizzie Bennett cast was there, and you all were like the new kids, or like the new like cool kids, and we're like, oh.
Portland was a blast. Chicago was a blur, in part because it was all so new. I mean, we had gone to VidCon a few weeks before that, and we met Melissa and Ellie, and she was like, we love what you do, you should come to our con too. And I was like, because she like grabbed me, she enthusiastically met me at, you know,
it's a Staten Island girl,
some like mixer. I mean, there's and you go to all these conventions and there's weird like ropes, like roped off corners where like you show your special badge and you go in, and other people like are like, oh, what's happening on the other side of the rope? And it's like the same awkward stuff that's happening on that side of the rope.
There's like a learning curve to being like, it's so separate from the work of creating a thing. It's just
such
totally
a bizarre thing. And of course it's lovely that people like your work and want to meet you, but also like those are like the two different parts of the convention, right? There's the parts of the convention that are kind of front facing where you're interfacing with the fans, and then there's the like, you know, guest only areas,
like
where like, and those can be very cool places where you know meet like friends, or sometimes there's some weird vibes in there where someone's like,
any celebrity is just like bullshit.
Or like you go past the ropes in the hedge and you go, where are any of my friends? Who are all these weird people who like want like are pretending like want to be important?
Yes, and there are people who think it's like very important that like they're on the other side of the rope, and it's like, I mean, it's a rope, guys. I don't know what you think this value is, but VidCon was like, people like us were popular. Like it was just a very weird kind of time, and then same thing happened when we were in Chicago, that like we just weren't prepared for that kind of mob response, which was lovely. How fortunate to have people like your work, but it was also, you know, no one can prep you for that. No one
they're like
teaches you that,
because only like there's a very small amount of people who actually have any knowledge of it to begin with. Like, because like also like, you know, movie star celebrity is different than like all of a sudden becoming a big deal on the internet.
And like it's not like that's even been an option for very long.
Exactly. So like there's there is some knowledge of it out there, but like so few people have it that like no one gives you like the briefing, and you're like, oh, okay, how do I navigate this?
Right. And even sort of, I think, like stage dooring has changed over the years too. But I think that's a better equivalent. But I think that part of the reason that stage dooring has evolved the way it has is because of internet culture, and because we have a different currency now. Like I have photos with myself with like actors I met at stage doors as a kid, but there was no internet to put them on. And
That was
now
just for you.
it's
That was just for you.
Like
Yeah.
it was, yeah. Like I mean, like I have a framed photo of me and Douglas Sills. I mean, my mom does. But now it's like, it's not just for you, it's for the gram, and it's, there's a whole currency to it. And but like there never used to be that many people waiting at a stage door when I was a kid as there are now. And also just the idea that like it's a lot easier to be invested in a performer when like you follow them on Instagram and like more about them than literally just the one time you got to see them on stage.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I mean, I'm sure there's like pros and cons to it, but it's like totally, I don't know, it's just totally different. You like can't pretend that, or it's harder to pretend that this person is just a character in a thing now when their whole life is so available to you. And I feel like in some ways that like hurts the like the illusion sometimes that you're trying to make in like a film or something.
I think that was a big concern at the beginning. I remember when the Lizzie Bennet Diaries was ending, everyone was asking me if I was going to start a vlog, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm an actor. I don't particularly want to be me in things, but at the same time, like I am now used to having this connection with an audience. And the reason I didn't was because Felicia Day said, don't do it. Because she was hearing, because she did the vlog and it was around the same time as Lizzie Bennet Diaries. She actually helped Lizzie Bennet Diaries kind of launch because she shouted us out on the vlog. She said, don't do it because now people just tell me like, oh, I just see you. Like when I see you in like, on TV, I just see Felicia, like I don't see you acting anymore. And she let that bother her. And ultimately I'm like, I'm sorry, were you employed on television? Like who cares?
I guess it just depends what you're going for, I suppose.
It's ubiquitous now in a way that like
right.
Sort of it's not a non-issue.
Exactly. Like that was like 2013. There was sort of the like, because it used to be that movie stars were very mysterious, right? Like we didn't know things about them. And now like Jessica Chastain is on Instagram.
Okay, we got Joey in the waiting room. We've got to prank him. What should we do? We should pretend like we can't hear him, or like
let's just ignore him fully.
Talk as if he isn't there.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what happens.
Also, Brian, were you taking notes, or was that pen just a prop? Like you were like waving a pen around like you were taking notes.
We've been doing Wayward Guide podcast recording, so I've got like a notebook here where I've been like marking down takes that I like, and also I've just gotten in this habit of doodling while I'm talking. So like while I'm talking, my right hand is like always just like doodling. And
I just imagine you had like a little like stenographer pad that you were like taking notes for your like cover story.
Yeah, exactly.
Like yes, yeah.
The truth is when I'm not looking at what I'm writing though, it just is scribbles. You know what I mean? Like, when directors are like watching and they're also writing notes, it's just complete scribbles.
Oh yeah. Especially when you're like sitting in the dark. Speaking of Wayward Guide, let's talk about Us. We haven't talked about Us yet.
Yeah, we've been spending a little. When Joey gets here, maybe we can pivot to some other stuff about.
Aren't I on here?
That sort of
well,
thing.
You were just talking about taking notes on the podcast, and I just recorded like 2 days ago, and I think that was sheer perfection.
Wait, I'm on, right? I'm not being gaslit.
I mean, after you like did your session, we were like, wait, I forgot how like Ashley's classically trained.
Wow, yeah, like, thank you so much.
And like our words are Shakespeare, so it like really makes a difference.
Yeah,
wait, you can see me, right?
Like people make fun of me a lot for mentioning my MFA, but the reason that I mention it a lot is because no one but me and my mom cares, and so I just feel like I need to bring it up a lot. But occasionally, it does really show up in my work in terms of the ability that I have to say words out loud into a microphone.
I think maybe we should all get honorary MFAs from the old Globe for pranking Joey so hard. Let's go.
Oh, okay. Was this a plan?
No regrets.
It wasn't my
Okay,
idea. Hi, Joey.
Okay, it was
But
not
it
fun.
worked
Right.
so well.
So,
I broke,
you felt
but you didn't seem to notice.
Welcome, Joey.
Hi, how are you guys?
Hi.
How's it going?
Great.
How's
We
this
missed you.
going? How's the chat? How's everyone? I'm like bringing up all my little.
I mean, it's not been great without you.
that's
but,
fair. I appreciate that.
They
I
tried.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. That's good. That's good to know. How you doing? What's good, Brian? Your mustache is already coming back.
That's the thing about facial
did you
hair.
shave it?
For some reason, all the testosterone in my body, I'm certainly losing my hair, so it's not up here, but like it's all here. This is all of it. It all just grows hair here. That's it. So shave my mustache.
High levels of testosterone actually are linked to.
Okay.
I'm just saying, very manly men.
Oh,
But you said you're
really?
losing your hair. I from here you look great.
Did we
Thank
talk
you.
about chins yet? Did we get into chins?
We haven't talked about
We
strong
have not.
chins yet, but we're gonna do
Yeah.
a tight
Maybe
half
for-
hour on them.
yeah.
Lauren-
That
Lauren
tweet didn't go viral though.
It didn't. It
Lauren
didn't,
did
but
say-
it was inspired by our convo.
Not knowing that we had that convo, Lauren said she saw that tweet and was like, "I thought of you when I saw that."
I was honored that you
That
workshopped that
tweet-
with us.
But the point of that tweet was honestly just to make fun of the idiots who are like, men don't wear masks. And I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, I'll tell you what, it'll make your dick look bigger. Will you put it on now?
I
It's
don't.
a low
We have,
brand for me.
what have we
though.
talked about? So I know I don't dig into any.
Me, mostly me.
Okay, great.
Just Ashley's
Uh,
story.
Are we in the just Kickstarter part of the, or not Kickstarter? What am I talking about?
We're
no.
not.
Oh, cool. So we're still in the part that
Yeah.
will be eventually public. Tight.
Ashley, I want to talk a little bit about just how you got into like making your own stuff, just for a few minutes, if you don't mind. And also, will you introduce your manager who's on your lap there?
For those who haven't been acquainted, this is Perdita. She is a domestic short-haired Torby, which is a tortoiseshell tabby, which means her coloring is beautiful.
She is
This is
beautiful.
the prettiest little kitty. She's a 12-year-old firecracker.
And she started her
she
own
is-
company, her own management company.
Yeah, she only has one client though, and it is me.
That's nice.
I can't say I've been getting a lot of work yet, but she's new at it. And as I mentioned earlier, she is named after The Winter's Tale. Her name means lost because she was lost and I found her. But I call her
That's
Purdy
cute.
for short. So I like to say that she's a highbrow name and a lowbrow nickname.
That's cute.
So to
Beautiful.
answer your question earlier, Brian, if I was a Shakespeare nerd,
Absolutely
No.
not.
not at all. But she shows up whenever I'm on the phone, honestly, and this is the same as far as she's concerned because she thinks I'm talking to her.
Yeah, just anyone you're talking to, it's like you're
Oh,
talking,
it must
you're talking to me,
be,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, this must
What do you
be.
need, mother?
Was she
So-
pissed when you built a spaceship in your living room?
She did not love that.
I imagine cats are very like territorial, like this is my home.
They're anti-space. Cats are very routine based. They don't like to have their routine disrupted. It's why you can like take a dog on vacation with you and cats not so easily.
Mhm.
But so she adapted, but she didn't love it because it also made the entire apartment much more crowded because we built that in what is essentially like the dining nook, and that meant that we put the dining room table in the living room. Like the entire one bedroom apartment was very cramped during that month, and so she was just like, what is this nonsense? And occasionally she would wander onto set.
So this is when Sona, the series.
So
you
Sona
wrote
is a
and
series, is a sci-fi series that I wrote and star in, that was shot almost entirely in this apartment on a
Unbelievable.
spaceship set that Brendan and I built with these hands.
Wow.
Mostly his hands, but
It's
my hands.
insane. You guys did everything, like from building the set to like filming it to like writing it in that order.
In that order.
Do you find that to be? I know the answer to this question. Exhausting, or is it like for you? Are you someone that gets? I think we
So
all
that-
to a degree like get the adrenaline of being like we're doing all of this. It helps like push you through to the finish line and get it, but it's also I think simultaneously working to not have to do that anymore, which would be ideal.
It's all the things. It's all the things, because there is something really thrilling about having total creative control.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, like it's absolutely exhausting. It's exhausting to my very bones. But at the same time, there's also something much more like spiritually exhausting about not making art.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually I mean, at this point, it's sort of even like a survival mechanism. When the quarantine started, Brendan was like, so we're gonna make a movie, right? And I was like, I mean, give me a minute. And then like after a month of staring at a wall, I was like, okay, we can make something. So we actually like have been working on like a secret that's not really a secret, like a quarantine movie.
That's great.
That is a 2-person movie. And he's been you can check out Brendan A. Bradley on all things. And also I think he's using the hashtag Homebodies Live. He's starting to kind of show post production live on that, but that was literally like a reason to get out of bed every day. Like, yeah, let's make something, and that was and there's still a few pickup scenes that we need to get actually, but that was an entirely improvised movie, because we looked at the brain capacity that we had.
Yeah, it's like you're not gonna go through the process of being like, we're gonna write the screenplay, we're gonna do this. It's like let's just start. And
so we outlined it so that we kind of knew like where we were going, and then basically we would like get up every morning, Monday through Friday. We took weekends off. Monday through Friday we would get up and go, okay, what's the scene we're gonna shoot today? And then we would kind of talk our way through it, and then we'd start to improvise it. And then once we'd found something that we were like, yeah, that's pretty much the scene, we'd set up cameras and we'd shoot it.
Awesome. Wait, hold on, as a, someone's repping your, she's been wearing this all day. you were like, I'm wearing this. So,
whoa.
Pretty cool.
I
merch.
wear mine all the time. Yeah, that's cast and crew only merch that
we live in a.
So the computer has.
We all work in with enough projects where I feel like a lot of our wardrobes are like show shirts, cast shirts, like merch. It's
I mean, when it's
very
cold,
exciting.
I live in my Salvage Squad sweatshirts.
It's like your house coat.
I'm shocked that people
don't. The big one is my house coat. I mean, and that's partly because Ann Arbor Tees makes such great merch.
But it's funny that people like don't get clothed by their merch companies. It's funny that people are like, oh, you don't have a merch company like making fun shirts for you a lot of the time?
No, I'm jealous of all the people who are in more Starkid stuff have like way more merch.
Yay. Ashley, I feel like there's so much more we can talk to you about. Were you going to say something?
No, it was just, that was a fun pivot. You went,
yeah,
fun. Sure, we'll call it fun.
We're all wearing shirts, and shirts are fun. Yeah, it's been fun kind of going back over like how you've gotten to where you are.
Did we talk about how we met, Ashley?
Yeah, just the cons.
We talked about cons, but you and I feel like really met on and like got to know each other on Muzzled.
Yeah, I think because
and you're actually rocking a similar look right now.
Oh yeah. But I think, was that beard fake? I don't remember.
You tell me.
But I also I think I had probably likely met Brendan before you on School of Thrones.
Yeah.
Which is how I met Mary Kate too, which is like the start of it all, which is also how I got scabies.
Which was the start of something else.
Which was the start of something else terrible. But no, so just a fun way. And I think that's the end of the podcast episode.
And speaking of scabies and other fun things like that, yeah, do you have anything to plug? I know you do. I mean, we know you're at Ashley Clements on all social media.
At the Ashley Clem on social media.
Ashley Clements.
Ashley Clements.
Ashley Clements. I should have done that, you guys. It's too late now. You can check me out on Patreon, Ashley Clements.
Hell yeah.
And I'll we're updating stuff about Idiot Tales in Post, which is a feature that Joey is in, and that's looking good. And now Homebodies our latest quarantine project is also moving into post. So we're constantly making stuff and putting it out there, and you can follow me on social media for updates and viral tweets.
And Sona is on your YouTube channel?
Sona is on my YouTube channel, yeah, which is I think Ashley Clements. Or maybe the Ashley Clements.
Maybe.
Just search for Sona. SONA.
And yeah, Non-Transferable is on places.
Amazon Prime. You can rent it other places, but it's free on Amazon Prime.
And
no one knows how it works.
The Solve It Squad is on YouTube.
And Idol Worship.
And Idol Worship.
And
someday, Wayward Guy.
Someday.
Wayward Guy is great. I'm really excited for everyone to see it.
Soon day.
You're so funny in it.
Thank you.
And you know what? You really came back for that podcast with your accent well prepared.
Thank you so much. I did spend 10 minutes on it.
You know what? That's all it takes.
Not everyone did.
But 10 minutes for you is maybe what some hours some people need.
Because you are classically trained at the Old Globe.
Aw, yeah. What a creative and inspiring and hardworking artist Ashley is. We are very lucky that we've gotten to work with her on so many awesome projects. It goes without saying, if you liked where this interview was going and wanted to keep listening, you could get the full version on our Patreon. Head to www.patreon.com/TinCamBros for this interview, archived interviews, again, featuring one with John Cozart that we just did that won't be available on YouTube for several months, and all sorts of other goodies. All right, everyone, thank you so much for enjoying this round of Can to Can interviews, or at least I hope you enjoyed them. Either way, we love and appreciate you guys so much. Stay healthy, stay safe, and stay tuned for maybe a fun series that might be coming out this fall. I'm talking about Wayward Guide. Bye!